At Mom Tree's Boathouse Hotel on the scenic Kata Yai beach last Wednesday night, just after a beautiful sunset and just before a dramatic lightning and thunder show descended, the hotel held another of its interesting writers' nights. This time with Jim Newport, a Phuket-based writer who just brought out Chasing Jimi, a fictional account of a year in rock artist Jimi Hendrix's life. After his Vampire of Siam trilogy, which includes his first novel of the same name, followed by Ramonne, The Return of the Vampire of Siam, and The Reckoning, A Tale of the Vampire of Siam. Perhaps appropriate titles for an atmospheric night in good company. He gave a small but appreciative audience a taste of his latest work and why he wrote about Jimi Hendrix.
To be here at the Boathouse, and thank you, Lisa. This has been a very relaxing time. I've actually been here, this is the second day, and it's been so nice here. It's just been great. And it's great to be back in Thailand. I've been away for 4.5 months, and it just seemed like forever, you know, and I guess counting the days when I could get back. You know, it's so terrific to be here. But this is the new book, Chasing Jimi, and it's a factoid. It mixes fact and fiction about 1 year in the life of Jimi Hendrix. Brother Jimmy. Who doesn't know Jimi Hendrix? 35 years after his death, teenagers still wear t-shirts with his face on it. Google his name and you'll be directed to 12 million different websites. As I started to research Jimmy's life, and I've heard so much about Jimmy and Jimmy's life, there was a time when I was a rock and roll photographer, and I was on the road for a number of years, and I worked with the Animals, and Robin Ford, and a number of very interesting people. And in 1983, as a graphic designer, I was the merchandise designer and the designer of the album cover and the stage design for the Animals reunion tour. And they went around the world basically with the designs that I had created, and I joined them on the bus for a good chunk of that. And Chaz Chandler, as you guys probably know, was the bass player of the Animals and became Jimi Hendrix's manager. He was actually the guy who discovered Jimi Hendrix. And Chaz was on the bus, and Chaz would tell tales about Jimi. And Eric Burden was on the bus, and Eric Burden and Jimi were best friends. And it was Eric who was called the night that Jimi died, and Eric went eventually to Jimi's bedside, and nobody else really kind of knows this. He took 2 guitars of Jimi's away because he said they're just going to disappear, you know. And he took them up to Newcastle and he stashed them in his mom's house. And over the years, he's given them to various musicians that I've been privy to. And I've watched how a guy takes a guitar that belonged to Jimi Hendrix and plays it, and how that changes him. You know, I mean, it was just this one guy's name was Alan Butler, and Alan thought he was Hendrix. He was a young, handsome black guy, and just suddenly his hair got curlier and wilder. I mean, it was just, you know, and it was just astonishing. And so I thought, well, that was really, really interesting, this effect that just holding and touching and having a guitar that belonged to Jimi in his hands.
Jim Newport, not Hendrix, is also a production designer of film and television. His film credits include Bangkok Dangerous, Brokedown Palace, The Stepfather, and Heart Like a Wheel. In television, he has set the look for many series by designing the pilot episodes. His work on the piano lesson for the Hallmark Hall of Fame was nominated for an Emmy in art direction. In 2007, he took over the design of the award-winning TV series Lost. But perhaps more interesting for current Thai residents was listening to his diary, recalling work 2 years ago during the last coup, whilst working, ironically, on Bangkok Dangerous, which is now showing in cinemas, starring Nicolas Cage.
September 11th. Time literally flies. Hard to believe it's been 5 years since 9/11, and hard to believe that we're now halfway through our shooting schedule. When you do this, when you work in a position like mine, on a foreign production, you immerse yourself in the project. You live it day and night, week in, week out, with the sacrifice of all else in your life. And that, my friends, is why filmmaking is so stuck. We live in first-class hotels. We're driven everywhere. And if you're fortunate enough to be a production designer, people accept that you must be doing something important when they generally leave you alone. What a life. We get paid to watch an actor of the caliber of Nicolas Cage, a true professional, perform his magic every day. He spends lots of somebody else's money, enhancing your own ego. Artists who love to spend other people's money. And you're with a great group of fellow international gypsies. Making movies is easy. Real life is hard. So September 20th. Left the set early last night with food poisoning. Woke up this morning and found I had slept through the war. No CNN, BBC, or any other TV coverage. Martial law has been imposed. And Nick Cage, the family, and Norm Griffin, his producer, flew the coup to Korea. Flew the coup to Korea. But we'll muster on, I'm sure. We can't stop the film. September 22nd. Nick is back. Found out that people just wanted to put flowers in the soldiers' gun barrels. But we have a few problems. For one, we can't fire guns anymore. This, of course, is an action picture, and we were in the midst of a huge four-night gun battle when the coup happened. Also, our end scene involves the attempted assassination of a prominent unnamed politician. This is a huge scene, thousands of extras, police, military, etc. September 23rd. Nick is nervous. He's uncomfortable being here in this time of instability. He's been protected from the get-go by a squad of bodyguards, both his own professionals and the Thai secret police. He's probably a choice target for anyone wanting to get in the news. And thus he's insisting we adjust our schedule to shoot him out as quickly as possible. He wants to leave. The scene on the set on the night of the coup, as described to me. It was about 10 p.m. when the Thai police on our set started to get reports. We were shooting a scene outside in the middle of a warehouse complex where Nick shoots every guard in an attempt to get to Mr. Big. Mr. Big flees in his black Mercedes. Nick shoots the car and all in except Mr. Big. Just as he's about to do Mr. Big, a squad of Thai police cars burst through the gate, red lights flashing. At midnight, after an elaborate lighting setup and many rehearsals, we were all set to roll, when suddenly Nick was whisked off the set by his guards. The police cars turned and headed off into the night. They were really with a lesson there. And as a final insult, the black Mercedes was seen. It belonged to an official departed and just been deposed, and it also drove away, all in a matter of minutes. The Thai AD called a wrap.
Jim is a man of many talents and admirers, and you can see him sing like Hendrix and strut like Cage. When he goes on stage again under his pseudonym Jimmy Fame at the Phuket Blues Festival at the Hilton Park, Phuket Arcadia next February. It was worth chasing Jimmy to see the real Jim Newport while he was in port here at the Boathouse in Phuket.
Came on late last night with his stamp on the back of your hand.